Encore une fois, je répète la question, comment faire en sorte que les richesses naturelles de la Guinée profitent à tous les Guinéens? De surcroît, on va se baser un peu plus sur les mines ici, et ainsi que l'agriculture. Donc, sans ordre, you have the floor, whoever feels like they want to speak first. I can direct it if you want. I would like to start.
Which amount to countries having a huge amount of mineral resources, but still do not manage to emerge from poverty. And that is because I think we need to distinguish between resources and the value that are created by these resources. You know, the value, economic value that is put behind resources is the input in terms of labor as well as capital, which has to be brought to transform these resources from their natural state all the way to reaching the final consumers. And in the process of doing that, you create jobs and you create opportunities for investors to bring in machineries which also create value. And I think the thing that we in Guinea need to be careful about is to ensure that we take part into the process of the valuation of these resources so that they fall back into our economy. Because as it stands, I think in 2024, Guinea, which is the largest exporters of bauxite in the world, exported, I think, around 180 million tons of bauxite, which amounted to, you know, a value of around $13 billion. Well, lo and behold, the portions that came back to the Guinea economy is not more than 8%, which is actually the problem that is associated with the famous resource trap. You can compare that to Saudi Arabia, that is also laden with mineral resources in terms of oil. Saudi Arabia manages to retain about 80% of the value of their petroleum back into the economy. So the real challenge for Guinea is to work on, I think, diminishing the impact of that resource trap and elevating the potential of revenue that comes into our economy. And that's where you have, you know, people, the private sector involvement as important as the one that Mr. Bakary was talking.
Donc, M. Bakary, si vous voulez, je reprends la question.
Plus s'intéresser, qu'il ne reste pas seulement dans l'exploitation artisanale, c'est-à-dire primaire. Il faut qu'il s'intéresse dans l'exploitation vraiment industrielle et dans la transformation de nos mines. Mais ceci n'existe pas. Il faut aussi que le gouvernement puisse accompagner le secteur. Parce que qui dit exploitation minière, nous avons besoin de financement et d'investissement. Et pour avoir ces investissements-là, il faut des encouragements, il faut que le gouvernement puisse nous accompagner. Donc pour moi, il faut d'abord que les Guinéens s'intéressent, se forment, pour qu'on puisse avancer dans ce secteur et qu'on puisse en profiter.
So yes, Miss, I was actually going to come towards you. He's speaking as, both of them are speaking as entrepreneurs in the sector and knowing the sector, but you are an expert in development. And this is probably a topic that you have.
I wanted to add towards undermining.
Yes, actually do benefits from these resources.
I think for Guineans, there should be participation of the natives, those who own the minerals. In Africa, it's the other way around. I think there should be stakeholder meetings involving the stakeholders all the way, and also there should be accountability and transparency. That is what is lacking in Africa. There is no accountability. Maybe in Africa now, the only country that has accountability maybe is Botswana, which has always been in black. There should be accountability involving the stakeholders, especially the community. And with that, you know where the problem is and know how to implement. These days, you have to involve stakeholders, because this is God's gift to them. They should partake in the development of that gift.
Thank you so much. Mr. Elizabeth, do you have something to add to that before I proceed to my next question?
Yeah, look. I'm tired of talking about it. It gets too old and too exhausting. Let me tell you how I feel about it. The truth is this: I have friends in here that could have been on this panel today talking about it from the U.S. government perspective, which I've worked there. The problem is, like what they said, 100%. But then so what? We're going to have this conversation next year, 10 years. So what I'm going to say is this. Just start with the county. Start with somebody that cares. You see, part of the problem in Africa today is our leadership. There's so many books, so many articles in this. So what? You got to start local. You got to start with the county. You got to start with us bringing businesses that can get into the mining. That's on our side. On your side, like they said, you have to have dancing partners that are serious. Okay, there's no need bringing in U.S. government, they put in $1 billion into mining. They leave, and the $1 billion is wasted. That money is not going to come in. We got to start with ourselves. It's not Europe, it's not France, it's not UK. Enough. Let's take ownership of it. You have partnerships that are ready to work with you, from Prince George's County to the state of Maryland, and then to the U.S. government. Let's start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nous attendons très souvent, il faut que les gens s'intéressent, il faut que les gens participent, il faut faire participer les gens qui vivent dans ces zones minières. Mais en même temps, très souvent, ces décisions sont prises ne tenant pas compte de tous ces facteurs-là. Et même si c'est le cas, est-ce que c'est appliqué? Un exemple, en 2013, il y a eu un code minier qui est sur place, à date. Est-ce qu'on peut dire vraiment que ce code participe au fait à la recette? Est-ce qu'il y a eu un changement? So, in 2013, there was a mining code that was applied by the government. And how has this affected the revenues in the mining sectors? We do not know. There has been so many mysteries when it comes to this sector. We do know that the money is there. We do know that money is being made. But how? And I feel like the mystery, this is my own personal opinion, you're free to dive in, the mystery also make it hard for people to be interested. Monsieur Diané a mentionné tantôt qu'il faut s'intéresser au secteur, mais je trouve qu'il y a un mystère autour de ce secteur. On sait qu'il y a des revenus, on sait que c'est rentable, on sait que ça participe à l'économie, mais ce mystère aussi, selon mon opinion, et je vous donne la parole bien sûr pour défendre, ce mystère aussi empêche les gens de s'intéresser à ce secteur, parce que déjà quand on entend les sommes qui sortent de ce secteur, pour un jeune entrepreneur, peut-être qu'il y a des ambitions d'être dans les mines, tu te dis que c'est quasi impossible d'être dans ce secteur. Si vous n'avez pas les fonds, il faut les investissements. Et M. Zema a dit tantôt, les investissements aussi, on a tendance à se diriger en gros vers les gros pays. On s'est dit, ok, il faut que j'aille chercher ces investisseurs, peut-être qu'il n'y a pas ces fonds. Mais qu'est-ce qui les garantit qu'il y aura un retour sur investissement si on n'a pas vraiment en fait, de mesures tangibles? Donc, M. Diaby, je reviens vers vous. Le code minier de 2013 a été appliqué, certes, mais qu'est-ce que ça a apporté? Et pourquoi tant de mystères autour de ce secteur? Pour moi,
il faut juste s'intéresser au secteur. C'est vrai que c'est un secteur souvent qui est exploité par les étrangers. Quand nous prenons la CPG, Russal, toutes ces grandes entreprises minières en Guinée sont des sociétés étrangères. Je ne pense pas qu'il y ait beaucoup de Guinéens qui s'intéressent, à part mon grand frère Mory Diane, et aujourd'hui moi-même qui m'intéresse dans ce secteur. Et quand vous prenez aussi tout récemment, le gouvernement a procédé au retrait de plusieurs permis en Guinée, et 80% de ces permis appartiennent aux Guinéens. Pourquoi ces permis ont été retirés? Parce qu'ils n'ont pas respecté le code. Parce qu'ils ont pris les permis, ils se sont mis à spéculer sans pouvoir les exploiter. Donc il n'y a pas de mystère. Tous les avantages, toute la procédure, elle est là pour que nous puissions exploiter ces mines-là. Aussi, vous voyez, il y a certains postes dans les sociétés minières, les Guinéens ne sont pas là-bas parce qu'ils n'ont pas de profit. Ils cherchent, mais ces sociétés-là ne trouvent pas de profit. Donc nous devons nous intéresser, avoir une vision pour se former maintenant, pour pouvoir faire face. Quand nous avons eu les hôtels en Guinée il y a quelques années précédentes, ces hôtels-là n'avaient pas de profil aussi. Ils ont dû faire appel à des étrangers pour pouvoir faire ce travail. Donc il n'y a pas de mystère, c'est un secteur qui est là. Ces mines-là nous appartiennent, ce n'est pas pour d'autres personnes. Donc si ils ont pu le faire, je pense que nous aussi nous pouvons le faire. Ou si nous ne pouvons pas le faire, essayons de les approcher pour qu'on le fasse ensemble, ou essayons de les copier.
Anybody else wanted to chime in? Mr. Diané?
I will add something to say, because I have little experience in this sector. In Guinea, is that there has to be a synergy, of effort from the government or from the private sector side as well. I think we need to understand as a people that 8% of the receipts from something that we contributing to the world economy is not acceptable. It has to be bigger than that. Now, what do we need to do? We can take examples from some other countries. For instance, in Ghana, they prohibit even the ownership of trucks by non-Ghanaian to make sure that the entire transportation process from mine to port, which is an easy process, should be reserved for Guinean. But on the other side, Mr. Diaby is absolutely right, is that there's some initiative that has to come from us also, private sector, and for many of our colleagues, Guinean, who are in this room, who have acquired certain skill at managing business and take the initiative to, work back home. Okay, so I've seen the necessity for these two poles to come together, make it a national policy, look for initiative that will make it sure that Guinean be part of the process. Because 8% is not acceptable. 80% in Saudi Arabia, but you have 30% in Nigeria, you have 20% in Mongolia. I think Guinea is not as performing, and it has been so since the 1960 when we signed our first contract with CVA.
Yes, I actually was going to.
Let's not give Nigeria too much compliment.
He's Nigerian, by the way, so he's speaking
I'm
from
from Nigeria,
experience.
so let's not go there, please. The truth is this. It's not working because it's corruption.
Yes, of course.
Okay, you could paint it and go to MIT, come up with good words. It's corruption. Okay, until you deal with the corruption. China can come and get minerals. Why? Somebody's allowing them to come in? So we got to look into our hearts. Until it's Africa first, like US first, nothing is going to change. Period. That's it.
I don't think it's only corruption.
What else?
It's corruption and African language. It's not. I don't think it's only corruption. It's a mixture of a lot of things. I think for it to work, our individual countries should know about public-private partnership. If you are involved in something, you would like the soup to be cooked well. Is what if there is PPP? All eyes, all of you, the people that are involved, and also the government also should try to do blended financing, where you can have risk mitigation and have other people investing and giving concession. If there is concession, give concession to your people first, before you go and call somebody from Utah to come and take, or somebody from Beijing and other places. Give concession to your people. Like all of us here, who are Africans, we are not here by choice. 10 people can come together and go and get a concession in your country. And you make it work. I don't think it's corruption only, honestly. Although corruption has been a cancer endemic, not only in African countries. There are corruption even in America now, as we are talking about.
I am really going to emphasize that there is corruption in the US, just so you know. Monsieur Diaby nous a parlé tantôt aussi des ressources humaines, que très souvent, surtout dans le secteur minier, c'est pas qu'il y a un mystère, mais il y a aussi manque de compétences. et ce qui explique pourquoi les étrangers s'entraînent souvent chez nous. Madame Philomena aussi explique que tantôt, certes, on parle de corruption, mais ce n'est pas forcément la corruption. Elle aimerait qu'on se base aussi sur les partenariats publics-privés. Alors, M. Diané et M. Diaby, je sais que dans vos différents secteurs, vous êtes certes ouverts aux partenariats publics-privés, qui est d'ailleurs l'une des réformes exigées actuellement par le gouvernement, que les Guinéens soient sur la table en prenant ces décisions, mais aussi qu'il y ait des bénéfices retour en Guinée. Il y a M. Diaby qui a mentionné qu'il y a eu des permis qui ont été retirés. Certes, le code est là, comme je l'ai mentionné tantôt, j'ai parlé de mystère. Le code est là, mais est-ce qu'il est appliqué, est-ce qu'il est compris? Alors, M. Diaby, je reviens encore vers vous. I'm going to start from them and come to you, not because they're my favorites, but just because being in this specific sector, I would like for them to push so you can add to the corruption. I just that part, it was very nice. Oui, M. Diaby.
Ok, mais je ne suis pas d'accord quand on dit qu'il y a la corruption. De toute façon, je ne suis pas habilité à le dire. Sinon, je risque voir mon business se plomber.
So, see, if you're watching this, please, we are not saying there's corruption in Guinea. We're just saying it happens sometimes. Okay? We have business owners here that are trying to look after their business. So we're not saying we're corrupt. We're just saying sometimes there's some flares.
C'est pas forcément la corruption, mais je pense que le Guinéen, il est un peu pressé. Vous savez, pour avoir une rentabilité dans les mines, il faut attendre 3, 4 ans, 5 ans. Et le Guinéen, il est impatient. 5 ans, le Guinéen, il est impatient. Tu le dis, investis, on va construire un port, on va acheter les camions, on va acheter ça. Et la première question qu'il va te dire, quand est-ce qu'on aura des intérêts? Quand tu vas lui dire 5 ans, il dit, mais je vais mourir, peut-être que je vais mourir d'ici les 5 ans. Vous voyez? Donc, il faut qu'on s'investisse, qu'on pense plus au futur. Et qu'on puisse se former aussi pour pouvoir vraiment intégrer ce secteur-là. C'est un secteur porteur, c'est un secteur... Allez aujourd'hui en Guinée, vous regardez un peu dans les hôtels, vous verrez plein d'étrangers qui sont là. Tous les hôtels sont full, il n'y a plus de place parce qu'ils sont intéressés par nos mines. Demandez certains Guinéens, ils ne s'intéressent pas. Ils se disent que c'est, comme vous dites, c'est quelque chose de mystérieux, c'est une activité fermée, c'est un club. Non, il faut foncer. Je pense que quand quelque chose t'intéresse, il faut y aller, il faut foncer, il faut voir ce qui se passe dedans. Il faut aussi prendre des risques, il faut savoir prendre des risques. Donc, je pense qu'il faut vraiment encourager, il faut qu'on fasse des sensibilisations, il faut qu'on voie. Peut-être que 1, 2, 3 Guinéens réussissent dedans, les autres aussi vont s'y mettre.
So, Mrs. Philomena, you, just to jump off basically on what you said, you talked about the resources of learning about the sector being very minor, the codes being applied properly, people understanding the codes. From your states to both of you, how do we bridge this gap of understanding the laws and how to benefit from these laws? You know from the federal side, but also the county, and talking about public-private partnerships, which is something that is currently part of the main reforms of the actual government, to make sure that Guineans are benefiting from these partnerships and pushing our different entities towards the public-private partnership. So, based on what you know of the United States reality and Africa's reality in general, how do we feel like we can, because he just mentioned right now, reaching out to people and basically talking to them, making sure they do understand why these codes are here and how they're beneficial to them. So how do we navigate through that path to make sure the bridge of public-private partnerships are something that is beneficial for all? I see Mr. Diané looking at me, so I can tell that you do have something going on. Let me just jump up. And I love what's going on here right now. This is the purpose of this panel. Yes, Mr.
So, look, I don't want to overemphasize on the problem.
Which we know is not corruption.
No.
It's not, but yes.
Okay, the solution. I will leave here saying it is corruption. So anyway, let's do it. What's the solution? The solution is very simple. We have in the county, we're going to South Korea next month, to Mexico, we're going to several places. We select good companies from Patriotis County. Those companies would like to go to Guinea, okay, embark on deals, if it's agriculture, if it's mining, those companies need to be protected. Those companies they can bring the equipment, the knowledge, but then you need proper executable agreements that can be protected irrespective of who's in the government. So, it's not really that difficult. The most important thing is this: let each side hold each other accountable. When we bring Prejudice County businesses to Guinea and they sign an agreement to extract some metals or do some agriculture, as far as both sides hold each other accountable, the money is there. United States government is interested in, obviously, all these critical rare earth minerals, your lithiums, graphite, magnesium and copper, you name it. That's not the problem. The problem is holding those contracts to stand and respected. Until you can execute them appropriately, nothing will change. That's the only solution. We can bring the companies. There's no question about that. It's the other part making sure that it's respected and everybody is on the same playing field. That's it.
So would you like to add something, or
If I understand your question, how to get to participate?
To participate, he did mention the importance of having the resources and understanding the codes. However, how do we bridge that mystery gap? Because I did mention the mystery behind it.
I think to bridge the gap and get the people to participate is to also provide them with expertise. If they don't know what it's all about, how are they going to? They'll just be Dundee United looking. What they call Dundee United. Dundee is this that used to get 0-0-0 in the football. So I think we should provide expertise to the population by doing capacity building, that is sharing knowledge and let them know what they're into. Technical assistance is very important for them to know what they're doing. And also knowledge transfer through best practices, so that when their counterpart is talking, they are talking. They won't be talking over their head. They will participate. If there are these three things, I think the people, and get the right people to participate in a project they know about. Not because you have money. You go and participate in what you don't know about. They'll chop your money, as they say in Africa, chop. You know what I mean by chop? Eat your money. So it's good for the government or whoever to provide capacity building, technical assistance, and knowledge transfer to any Guinean or stakeholder that want to participate with this. Thank you.
Great.
Can I
Yes,
be
you can.
fictitious about it? Maybe we intellectualizing this problem a bit more than we should. Because mining is not complicated. If you have a shovel, you're a miner.
Yeah.
It's just make it a bit more sophisticated if you bring the engine. So maybe we just Guineans need to sit down and say to ourselves, we want a piece of that $13 billion that we're creating every year. And we want it to be Guinean. So, he needs machineries. How can we find him? The financial tie for him to have the blasters, so for him to have the trucks, this operation, by the way, there's 4 pieces to it. One is the mining, okay, which you could do with surface miner, or you could do with the traditional blasting. The second one is transportation, which is trucks from the mine to the port. The third one, port operations, to put it onto a barge and go to a city. And by the way, the largest portion of the return from the bauxite trade is the sea transportation. Today, I think the average price of bauxite at in China port is $75. The transport itself, is $30. And Guinea doesn't participate at all in the transportation, the maritime transportation. So there are pieces there it's evident where we should have Guineans be part of it. And believe me, none of these 4 components is so complicated that we need to train Guineans, some extra mile to be able to take it. I think we need to have the political strength, and then we have the cohesive participation between the like of Amadou and the ministers who are sitting.
Thank you so much. And je pense que ce que nous